This is Nicole Holland. You're listening to episode 25 of the Business Building Rockstars Show.
You're listening to the Business Building Rockstars Show, where your host, Nicole Holland, gets the lowdown from today's most talented, inspiring, and successful entrepreneurs on what it really takes to reach rockstar status.
Do you want to get your message out in a bigger way by being a guest on a web show or podcast just like this? If you do, text the letters I am ready to 33444 and I will send you free of charge a guide called How to Be a Great Guest. Don't make rookie mistakes that so many people do when they're starting out. Get known as a great guest that hosts search for free by texting I am ready to 33444. So to spell that out, it's the letters I am ready to 33444, and I will send you a complimentary copy of my guide, How to Be a Great Guest. In today's episode, I get to talk with Omar Zenhom about why you really don't need a business degree to start your own business. Omar shares about the challenges of creating webinars, why you should focus more on keeping your customers happy, and we talk about having your life partner as a business partner as well. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey there, entrepreneur. Nicole Holland here with the Business Building Rockstars Show, and I am super excited to have with me today Omar Zenhom. He is the co-founder of Webinar Ninja, a webinar platform and community that is dedicated to online business owners' success with webinars. Omar and his partner, Nicole Baldino, utilize over 15 years of education experience to training and guiding online business owners on how to teach, sell, and communicate effectively with their audience using webinars. Webinar Ninja is revolutionizing the webinar world with its commitment to providing an easy-to-use and effective software along with training resources that engage transparent marketing strategies with webinars. Omar is also the co-founder of the $100 MBA and host of an iTunes Best of 2014 podcast, the $100 MBA Show. The $100 MBA Show delivers daily 10-minute business lessons to over 50,000 daily listeners and was named by iTunes as the #1 Work Smarter podcast for 2015. I am super excited to have Omar with me here today. And Omar, are you ready to rock?
I'm ready.
Awesome. And before we get into your history and that backstory, how about you tell us a little bit about what you're up to today and how Webinar Ninja is changing the industry?
Yeah. So like I said, we focused on two things. One is our business education platform, which is a $100 MBA, and our podcast, which is a daily 7-day-a-week podcast. So that's a lot of work in terms of production and recording. So that takes a chunk of my time, and the rest of my time I dedicate to improving Webinar Ninja with our team, developing it, adding new features, listening to our customers, figuring out how we can improve it, make it easier, make it better. And also just getting out there and trying to do more webinars and help people do webinars so people feel more comfortable in live experience as well as the recorded experience, putting it all together with the technology. So I do a lot of education, and I do a lot of, managing around our team to make sure that things go well. This has kind of been the shift I've had this last year of, instead of just doing everything myself, trying to get the right people in place so they can do it for me.
Awesome. And so can you also tell us a little bit about why webinars? Like, what attracted you to creating a platform for webinars, and why would an entrepreneur want to get on them?
Well, my background's in teaching. I taught for over 13 years. I was a high school and university teacher. So I've been fortunate enough to have that as my background. And I feel like teaching is the ultimate skill. If you could teach somebody something, you can add value to their life, you can build credibility, and that's the ultimate sales tool in my book. And we see this online now a lot. A lot of people give these free ebooks and free courses to try to get people to sign up for their newsletter with their email address so that it can later on maybe offer them their products and services. So I have the advantage of actually being a trained teacher, knowing how to teach, know how to put lessons together. And I was attracted to webinars early on a few years ago when I started doing them because I felt like this is the closest thing I can get to teaching somebody in person. And it kind of speeds up the process. It speeds up the process of building trust with people. And because you're speaking to people live, it's one-on-one, you can answer questions instantly. So it's not like a video where people just have to kind of just watch passively. And I feel like people learn by doing. And if you can interact with people, you can really build that trust and authority really quickly. And you can get some wins, because as soon as somebody feels like, wow, this person has something that I can learn from or they can offer me, they're more likely to buy from you because they feel like, okay, you've proven yourself to me. So that's, for me, from a business side as well, that was just something I felt like there was a need in the market. I felt like the webinar softwares out there were clunky and they didn't really do what you wanted them to do, and a lot of moving parts. And so I decided to create the solution that I wanted.
Very cool. So, and how is your solution different?
It's a good question. A couple ways we differentiate. One of the major reasons why we're different is we use a technology called WebRTC, which is completely live video. It's one of the latest technologies in video broadcasting. So a lot of other video recording software like Google Hangouts or something like that, there's a delay of 30 seconds or so. So it lacks that interactivity. So if I ask you a question, I got to wait 30 seconds before you can hear it. And that kind of creates some dead air. And I mean, it's a workaround. You can work around that, but it's not as great as having a live interaction where I can ask you a question, you can answer right back, and it's much more lively. Also, it allows things to just be faster in terms of the chat or any kind of interaction on your website. So our technology is kind of advanced compared to the rest of our platforms, but we also have a whole bunch of other features that are not available with some of the other larger competitors like GoToWebinar and things like that. We offer more than just live webinars. We have evergreen webinars, anytime webinars, which are kind of like a great way for you to build your email list, because you can offer a recorded video or webinar where they can access instantly. We have our live editor, which allows you to customize every aspect of your webinar, from your registration pages, to your thank you pages, to your actual webinar page. So it's your brand, your logo. That's something that is unprecedented. It's not available in any other software. And we really pride ourselves on our support. I mean, we have a great support team. We have live chat. We try to help people just do well, not just in terms of understanding how to use the technology, but also how to run a webinar and feel confident doing webinars. We feel like if you're successful, if you do webinars properly and you're having a good time, you'll do more of them. So that's kind of our philosophy.
For sure. I love that. And I think that one of the things that I see when entrepreneurs are talking about webinars oftentimes is, if they hadn't done them before, they understand that there's a value in doing them, but there's a lot of people, I think, that have concerns around technology and just the learning curve, and is it possible for them to actually do it? So I think that's one big thing I hear. And then the other thing is people that invest in webinar technology, and then they think they're going to do a webinar and the gates are going to open and the money is going to start flooding in, and they don't understand how webinars fit into the funnel so much.
Yeah. So those are two challenges that are something that we're working on constantly. One of them is the technology. A lot of people, we're always refining, trying to figure out how can we make it easier? How can we help them create their first webinar, hold their hand as much as possible? One of the things that we do is that we assign everybody who becomes a Webinar Ninja a success agent. So there's somebody that reaches out to them and says, hey, my name is CJ. I'm your success agent. I'm here to make sure that you are successful with your first webinar. And they're there basically to help them walk them through and build that webinar. We're also working on a very highly custom. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to jump in and say that's really amazing, because nobody else that I know does that. Whether you're looking at some, I'm not going to name names, but some of the other platforms out there, you get it, and then there's like some tutorials, and if you need extra help, well, you're going to have to go hire somebody to get it. So I just want to acknowledge that that's really powerful. Just to have that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, half the battle is keeping your customers. I mean, getting them is easy, but I mean, you can market the hell out of any product, but it's having them use it, get used to it, fall in love with it is really what we're trying to do. And we're continuing to improve and try to make this a little bit more self-service. Kind of, we're improving our onboarding service so that when people jump into the software right away, they're given tutorials so they know exactly what to do. They're prompted with cues and things like that. So this is something that we've been trying to work on for some time to help our customers just understand that they can handle the technology. And the other side is that education of how do you actually run a webinar? How do you actually teach on a webinar? How do you put a workshop together? One of the things that we worked on very hard is a course. We created a course called Plan on Launch Your First Webinar, and it's a free course that we offer anybody, even if you're not a member. We have it available to the public, and the whole purpose is a 7-day course. Every single day you're given a video, and it breaks down exactly how do you plan, how do you market, how do you put your lesson together, how do you actually attack a certain area of your expertise and put a workshop together around that area. We actually show you how to build your PowerPoint slides and everything like that. And we want to put people at ease so they know what to do now and they have the software. I know people that actually watch that course and they use a different software, but it's okay. I mean, we're just trying to help the industry in general.
That's beautiful. Awesome. So I'm really glad we got to talk about webinars a little bit, because I know that a lot of my listeners have curiosity about webinars, haven't quite gotten into them, or maybe they've got them. I've actually worked with a surprisingly large number of people who have actually paid for webinar software that have never done a webinar because they're just too intimidated, or they get into it and then they're like, I don't know what to do with this, and they don't have the support. So I really appreciate that we got to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, my quick advice is, I always say the hardest thing about doing a webinar is doing a webinar. Is like, just do your first one. Even if it's small, even if you have like 5 attendees and those 5 people are just, it's like an open Q&A for your audience or your email list. Even if your email list is small, just invite them and say, hey, I'm doing a webinar to answer your questions. And it's a good way just to get started. There's no pressure. You're not selling anything. They're not strangers. They know who you are. You've already built rapport. It allows them to ask any questions or a way for you to give advice or any kind of like quick coaching. And it gets one under your belt. It just allows you to kind of feel comfortable with it.
My first webinar, nobody showed up. Nobody. But you know what? I did it anyways, because I was like, This would be a really easy way for me to say, oh, well, I'm defeated, and then not do it. But I thought, no, I'm just going to do it because it just needs to get done.
Yeah, so. Good. I mean, that's good. You went through the motions and you knew exactly what to do. Hey, I mean, it's okay. I mean, I remember I had 5 people on my first webinar, and they were like my 5 true fans at the time. And it was okay, because at the time, I mean, this was like 3.5 years ago, and, people didn't even know what webinars were. They're really not sure what was going on. What do I do? Do I talk? Do I type? So it was nerve wracking, but it was, I'm glad that I did it.
Yeah, for sure. My second webinar had 3 people, and it was a total disaster. And I remember thinking afterwards, man, I'm so glad only 3 people showed up. I only had to be embarrassed in front of 3 people.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Silver lining, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So way back before teaching, way before webinars, what did you want to do when you were just a kid?
Wow, that's a good question. I had phases, I guess. When I look back at my childhood, I do see entrepreneurial tendencies. I do see things like that. If you want, I'll share a story that kind of is funny. When I was a kid, Halloween was a very big holiday because it's candy. It's free. Are you kidding me? Right. So it was just it was a fun holiday for us as kids. And I remember when I was like around, I think I was like 6 or 7, I used to do this thing where we used to go trick-or-treating hardcore in the neighborhood and go to my cousin's neighborhood, and we'd come back with bags of candy. But I knew instinctively that not to eat my candy. I would save my candy. Maybe I would have one piece every few days or something like that. But my sisters, my older sisters or 2 older sisters, they would go to town and they would just like eat all their candy. Within 2 weeks, it was all gone, right? So I would go and tell my mom and say, hey, Mom, I didn't eat any of my candy. And she says, why are you telling me this? And I said, well, if Mona or Iman, my sisters, I say, if they go to you and ask for money to go to the store, tell them that I have candy, right? And then she says, okay, I'll tell them that, right? She has no idea what I'm doing, right? But so they would come to me and I'd say, hey, I'll sell you my candy. I sold them 3 fun sizes for $1, but they couldn't choose which 3 sizes, of course, because any entrepreneur knows you got to get rid of your stock. So I would have to throw in like one of the cheapest candies, like that orange peanut or whatever it was, right? In the mix of the 3. So that's kind of where I don't know why, I just saw an opportunity. I was like, hey, I can make some money if I save my candy. And they bought candy from me every time they wanted candy. And, they, at first they're like, come on, just give it to us. Like, no, what are you talking about? You ate all your candy. And my mom just thought that was brilliant. She thought that was very smart of him. And then she just kind of encouraged that a bit. But after, I in my teens, I used to draw a lot. I used to be a very, used to like mimic or try to copy different cartoon characters, things I used to watch on TV or whatever. This is like maybe like 11, 12, 13. So I used to do a lot of drawing, and I thought I was going to be a cartoonist. That's something I was into. But around the age of 12, I got into sports. I started playing basketball, and when you're a kid, you can't focus on more than one thing at a time. So I stopped, drawing that much. I started playing basketball a lot, and I was very into sports up to my early 20s. And it's funny because my father was in sales growing up, and he's actually an engineer, and that's what he was trained to do. And he was an engineer for a very long time, but then he lost his job during an economic crisis. And in the interim of trying to find a job, he decided to go into sales. His friend said, "Hey, why don't you work at my car dealership? You can sell some cars while you're waiting to get a job." And he just never left. He just enjoyed it, and he was very good at it. And it's just something that came natural to him. And then he advanced in that career. And it was funny because growing up, I saw the instability of business. Like, one weekend or one summer vacation would go to Disney World. The next time we're in the backyard, right? So it was a little bit, up and down. I kind of, as a kid, saw that and just said, "Hey, I want something really stable." And I didn't want to go to the military. It's just not something I was interested in. I didn't want to become a doctor. So I thought, hey, I'll be a teacher. Everybody needs a teacher. Everybody needs to teach. Education is a staple of every society. So that's when I decided to become a teacher. And that's what I studied in universities.
Awesome. And so at some point then, after over a decade of teaching, you made the decision to stop teaching. What did that look like?
Well, it's funny because so I went and got my undergrad, and then I got my master's in education, and then I was teaching English as a second language students that they're coming foreign students. They didn't have the English language to learn in English, so they would learn English at that level first. So it was very easy to me. I was doing very well in my job, and I advanced very quickly. And at 25, I was the head of department of my school. I was managing over 32 teachers, people that are double my size, like double my age. They were like in their 50s, and I was 25. And it was a very overwhelming experience for me, but it allowed me to grow quickly and learn. But around, I would say 2001, 2002, I started to dabble in the online world. I didn't even think of it as business or entrepreneurship. I just was interested in the internet. I thought this is interesting. Like, wow, this is like a whole world I never thought existed. And I started to buy and sell things on eBay. That's just something how I just got started. I didn't even think of it as like, it was just an experiment. I really didn't think of it as like business. And then I said, okay, what else? How else can I, do things? So I started selling rare Air Jordans, which are like sneakers, right, on eBay. Then I started doing some arbitrage, meaning that I would find people that are selling their car, and then I would try to find a buyer for them, and I would sell it for a higher price and take the difference. And just things. I don't know why I got into it. I can't explain it. Maybe some of the stuff I was around my father seeped in, and I never kind of felt like I'm leaving my job. I just said, hey, yeah, this is what I'm just doing on the side, because I was kind of trying to find an interest, a hobby, I guess, right? But I really started to consider that I may be able to be a full-time entrepreneur when an uncle of mine, he's my mother's brother. He used to visit. He lives in Germany. He used to visit, and he used to come, and every time he would come, he would give me a gift, and that gift would be a book. And he started giving me some books. Started giving me some Robert Kiyosaki books. I just, I don't know why, but I just decided to read it. He was like the cool uncle in the family. I said, hey, maybe this is a good book. So I started reading it. But there was a book that I read that really kind of changed my mind. It's not a bestseller. No one even knows about it, but I often push it to people. I say, this is a great book. And it's a book called Anyone Can Do It. And it's by a brother and sister team who started a coffee chain in the UK called Coffee Republic. And it was like the first coffee barista style place in the UK before Starbucks came in. In fact, they were in a mad rush to get started before Starbucks came. And it was just a play-by-play, a narrative of them starting a business with no experience. And for me, it was just kind of like, wow, maybe I can do this. Maybe it's not like rocket science or something, right? And that was just kind of the thing that kind of sparked me. And I spent another 5 years kind of tinkering away. I had small businesses on the side as I was a teacher at the university I was working at the time. And then at some point, I just said, I gotta take a leap of faith and try this and do this full time.
How did you know it was time?
Oh, wow. I always say that my frustration outgrew my fear. So I was just frustrated in my situation to the point where it's just like anything could be better than this. So it had to do with my job. So I was at a university. I was a head of department at the time, and I wanted to move up to a chair position. And I was head and shoulders up better than everybody who's vying for this position. And I kept on getting missed on this position. I kept on getting, they would hire somebody else based on just personal preferences, people that they hung out with after work, things like that. And I started to realize there's so little control I have over my professional destiny. It just felt so frustrating. And I started to imagine what it would look like if I resigned. And it was just so emotional for me because I was like, wow, I can't take anything with me. I can't, they're just going to shake my hand and say, thanks, buddy. And I'll leave. Maybe they'll give me a wallet or something as a gift. And that's pretty much it, And everything I poured into that university, everything I poured in terms of policies and the things I've helped make it grow, I can't take it with me. I don't have a legacy. And it was just weird. It was just, for me, it was like, wow, I have to start from scratch again. And I was just like, if I just had this weird thought, it was just like, if I put in half the effort I do in my job, in something for myself, I think I would be better off. Even though I did it and I decided to resign, it was scary because, and I know that a lot of people who are maybe watching this, listening to this, thinking, hey, it's hard for me to leave my job. And it was really hard for me. It's very hard for you to leave something you're good at. Like I was really good at it. I was very, I was promoted and I was very young for my age where I was and things like that. But I just decided that, I'm not getting any younger. And I felt like time was not if I kept on delaying, time's not gonna be on my side. I got to kind of get going and start trying. And I knew that it's going to take me time to figure out what kind of entrepreneur I really want to be when I do it full time. So that was kind of my experience.
Cool. And so when you decided to do it full time, you weren't clear on what kind of entrepreneur you wanted to be?
When I say what kind of entrepreneur I want to be, I meant like I think everybody has a different style when it comes to business. And it's not about like, how am I going to practice business, like in my product or my service? I think that can come and go. Like I can, you can be selling one thing today and then you could be selling something else 3 years from now. But who you are as an entrepreneur will change. Like if we look at somebody like Mark Zuckerberg, he's very different as an entrepreneur, the decisions he makes versus somebody like Gary Vaynerchuk, right? These are different attitudes, different approaches to business, and different thresholds to what kind of things they want to get into. A lot of people don't know, but Gary's very risk averse. He doesn't like doing things that he doesn't feel comfortable with. And when it comes to the things he invests in, things he works on, while Mark is not. Mark is very risky when he takes this, and he's just, he kind of has a hope that he knows what's good for the future. And he kind of trusts his instincts. So it takes time for you to understand what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, how you can add value to people. Because once you know that, you can really do anything you want when it comes to business, because you can just put on that tap whenever you want. Hey, I need to make money, then I need to add value in this way because this is what gets me results. So that's what I meant by like kind of entrepreneur I wanted to be. But when I got started, the first thing I said is that, hey, at the time I already started a few small businesses on the side. I had a lot of friends and family that asked me like, hey, how do I start an online business? How do I start a website? What do I have to do? How do I accept money? So I started a small business consultancy firm and I just helped people start businesses. Just told them the steps to take and, gave them some advice in terms of what to put on their website and how to get customers, how to build an email list, things like that.
Awesome. And then how did that grow into what you have today?
Well, Nicole and I started, when I went full time and started the business consultancy, Nicole, who's my wife and my business partner, she started going to New York Film Academy. She changed her career. We were both teachers at the time and we changed our careers at the same time. And she went into film. She learned how to become a filmmaker. And this is something that she really had her heart into, and she did a great job at New York Film Academy. And she started to get some gigs afterwards after she graduated. And I would help her, negotiate her deals. Basically, I was her manager. She didn't know anything from the business side of things. She was very creative and she was able to deliver the actual project. But, how much do I charge for this? This client's asking for a 2-minute commercial on financial investing, so like, how, we have to calculate how many hours and, what they actually want in the final edit and things like that. So we started to work together in that way, and I would help her. We were very minimal that time. I was helping her carry bags and slate for her and be her audio guy and things like that. So whatever it took to get it done, and so she would help me with like aesthetics of the website design. She would help me in terms of shooting the videos of any kind of tutorials I would do for the website. And we just decided, hey, this is a good partnership. We complement each other really well. Let's do something together. Let's build something together. And I always thought it was a problem for a lot of people to start businesses because they felt like they had to know business. And it's true. There are things about business you need to understand: sales, finance, marketing. These are fundamentals you should understand no matter what kind of business you're going to start. But a lot of people felt overwhelmed by that and said, hey, I never went to business school. I don't know where to start. I can't afford it. So I really wanted to create a solution for that. And with my education background, I thought it would be a great idea to start a program like that. And that's where the $100 MBA was born. So Nicole and I just literally sat together, we brainstormed in a park, and we just sat down and had a lunch together and said, hey, what does this look like? What does it look like when it's, finished, and how much do we sell for? And I really wanted to make it appealing. And I was not really even interested in making money. I really just wanted to build an audience. I knew if I could build an audience with a solution, I would be able to then, move from there. And I felt like $100 was a reasonable price for what we were offering. And now it's like 180 video lessons and interviews and workbooks and a whole bunch of other things. And it's still $100. And a lot of people are shocked when they go in, like, wow, this is so high quality. I mean, Nicole's highly trained and the production quality of the videos are amazing. But we sat down and we said, hey, we're going to dedicate the next 2 months building the $100 MBA. We didn't take a day off. I put on hold all my clients and said, I can't take any work in these 2 months. And we just took a big risk and said, hey, we're going to launch this thing. And I actually announced it. I put up a landing page and we just went to town, and we just decided, I mean, we didn't have 180 at the time. I think when we launched with 110 videos, but it was a work. It was definitely a project that we were really dedicated to launch.
That's beautiful. And I love that you and your wife are business partners as well. And it's not something that you see every day. A lot of times I think spouses have differing interests where even if they want to work together, it doesn't always work out. So I think that's so cool how you complement each other and bring your gifts to the table.
Yeah, I think Nicole and I are very lucky. I can't deny that. But I've seen other couples that do it very well as well. And we all have kind of a similar trait. And I think that a lot of people have to understand, if you're going to work with your partner, if you're going to work with your significant other, it's very important for you guys to enjoy your company with each other. You have to be friends. You have to be friends first before anything else. At the end of the day, I was funny because Nicole and I were traveling and we met this couple who were married for 40 years, a beautiful couple. And I asked them, you guys are so happy. You guys make fun of each other, you're joking and things like that. And it looks like you guys are newlyweds. Like, what's the secret? And he just said, sometimes you just have to admit that friendship is more important than love. And because you have to have longevity if you want to last 40 years, and you got to enjoy the company of the person you're with. So I thought that was very insightful.
Absolutely. So Omar, tell me, when it comes to your business, what is one tool that you couldn't live without?
Gosh, probably Slack. I mean, Slack is the way we communicate with our team. All of our teammates, we have a team, it's Nicole and I and 12 other teammates, and they're all remote. We don't have a physical office. Everybody works from home. And we communicate with them as if we're in an office together with Slack. It's just a great tool to just communicate quickly, send files, things like that. And I don't know, it's just the first thing that kind of is on my computer every morning to see what's going on. So I would say Slack. Very
cool. And what's a guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure? I don't know. Nicole and I love film. We love watching movies. So, I mean, or watching a good show or something like that. So if we're ever burnt out from work or anything, we'll veg out and watch like 4 or 5 episodes of like House of Cards or something like that. Or watch a couple movies or go to the cinema or something like that and just kind of veg out for a little bit. I don't know. There's something about a good story or an experience of a good film that really gives you perspective, but also gives you kind of a break.
Awesome. And if you and Nicole didn't have anything to do for an entire month, no clients, no filming, no nothing, and somebody just handed you a blank check and said, go somewhere, just do something, where would you go? No work. You can't work. Just for fun.
Just for fun. Nicole and I have always wanted to go to India. Just because I'm always intrigued by very ancient, rich cultures. India's on my list. China's on my list. I haven't seen those. I mean, I've traveled in other places. But India is just a very interesting culture. There's a lot of subcultures in there. I think that it would be fun just to spend a month there, maybe get into yoga. Nicole's been doing yoga for decades, but I've tried it a few times and my body just doesn't bend that way. But maybe I ought to get into it, and maybe just enjoy the culture. I think there's so much to learn from people that have that kind of rich culture, that kind of rich background. Living in the West, I think we live in a very cosmopolitan world. I think a lot of people assimilate to American, or if you're in the UK culture, or or Australian culture. And in a lot of ways, we don't have that kind of rich tradition exposed to us all the time. And I think that it's always healthy to kind of immerse yourself in something like that. And it's a great learning experience, I think.
Awesome. Omar, thank you so much. Where can our listeners find you?
So the best way to kind of learn about me or get into what we do is check out our podcast, which is the $100 MBA Show on iTunes. They can go to our website at 100mba.net, and we got a free course on idea validation. If you ever want to nail your business idea or your tagline or whatever, this is a great course for that. It's completely free. We also have some free guides there you can download. So we got a lot of freebies over there. And if you're interested about webinars, you can check out webinarninja.co, and there we have a free course on how to plan and launch your first webinar. So these are the resources that I'd love to share.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And of course, all of those links are going to be on the show notes page as well. And make sure you check out Omar and the $100 MBA Show. And thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Nicole. It was a pleasure.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, make sure to subscribe on iTunes so that you don't miss another episode. And if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. Thanks so much for being here. And if you want to catch up on past episodes, it's super easy to do when you subscribe on iTunes. Also, we're on Stitcher, and of course, you can visit bbrshow.com for all of the episodes, show notes, and more. I would love to hear what you think about today's episode by leaving a review on iTunes, or also you can go to bbrshow.com, and on our show notes page there is a comment section. Dear listeners, I do this show for you, so the more you let me know what you love, the more I can bring you that. Don't forget that the Business Building Rockstar Show releases every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So 3 times per week, you can listen in to what the journey towards rockstar status entrepreneurship is really like. Until next time, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you, and I look forward to connecting again real soon.
And there you have it. If you enjoyed this episode of the Business Building Rockstars Show, be sure to subscribe on iTunes so you don't miss a thing. And visit bbrshow.com for all the show notes and links to resources discussed on today's show. Plus, lots more.